by and large, you won't always find the bigots to be Catholic. You won't, because like the NIFB exists, and of course there's the Westboro Baptist Church, and there's the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's the Mormon Church. There's all kinds of other organizations that have histories of bigotry within Christian traditions, but guys, do you think maybe there are certain churches, maybe even the Catholic Church, that might be fueling the far right? Do you think that might be a thing? Do you think that might be something maybe that we need to talk about? Well, that's certainly something that is being talked about in the New York Times, so we'll be going over that today because, again, these are the topics that are being done before going to before going to PAX, so they are going to be a little bit different than the types of things we would normally cover. These are all just user submissions, so let's go ahead and get right into it. But first, let's get into the fan art section. This one is from Nami Neko. First part of a bigger piece that will have 4.5 other characters in it. 4.5? Did you cut me in half? This one is of Blizzy-chan. I'm actually quite proud of this one. I suck at drawing humanoid stuff, so I tried more than usual with this one. There will actually be a full-colored version of this eventually in the full piece. I wonder if people will figure out what I'm doing based off this one drawing. Hint, the necklace, if anyone is curious. Wait a minute. I have no idea. I'm looking at the necklace and I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb. But, I guess Blizzy buddy. Blizzy, my friend, buddy. I gotta tell you. They keep thinking that you're a waifu. And I don't know how to tell you this. But you're not a waifu. But people keep on thinking you are. Now, buddy, I'm gonna kiss your snoot, but I'm going back up there, okay? I gotta talk about things that are not waifu-ified versions of you. Let's go back up here. Okay, guys. Now, let's go ahead and get into the next piece of fan art. This one here is from Ruvok. Been working on this since the days of hammering it out as my first attempt at digital art. May or may not ever actually finish it. I've really been enjoying using the channel mythos to practice drawing and short form storytelling, and watching everyone grow their art has been an absolute blast. Aw, you see Suris with a Mjolnir. Aww. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and get right into the topic at hand. Is the American Catholic Church fueling the far right? I don't know. We'll find out. In Playing God, the journalist Mary Jo McConaughey argues that an alliance of extremely conservative bishops and Catholic activists is exerting a profound impact on our national politics. Nami! Fine, Nami the Neko. Thank you for dropping 50,001 channel points to get me to do the thing. Fine, Nami. You get it. Oh, well. There. That's what you wanted. Derailed the entire thing. We just started the topic, but that's okay. That's okay.
May God smite you.
Let's go ahead and get into the actual. Axo! Thank you for naming your points for an owl. Let's go ahead and get into the res. Let's go. Let's go. Just how conservative is the Catholic Church? So conservative that when Pope Francis recently said that homosexuality is a sin, but not a crime, observers took that for progress. The connection between Catholicism and conservatism runs deep. It goes back to at least the Counter-Reformation, when the Church had to defend the religious status quo in Christian Europe against Protestants' radical criticisms of its priests, its hierarchy, and its doctrines. In its day, the Catholic Church opposed the Enlightenment. It rejected freedom of conscience. Church teaching was, for a long time, extremely skeptical of democracy. Indeed, it's fair to say that the most profound and sustained conservative critique of liberalism comes from within the Catholic intellectual tradition. It's no accident that the Supreme Court's 6 conservative justices all happen to have been raised Catholic. One, Neil Gorst, was brought up in the church but now identifies as Episcopalian. One of the liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, is also a Catholic. When the Federalist Society set out to develop an elite cadre of legal conservatives, brilliant young Catholic lawyers were more inclined and prepared to follow in the footsteps of Justice Antonin Scalia than were, say, young evangelical Protestant lawyers. The conservative nature of the Catholic Church has long posed a challenge for post-war American Catholic liberals. Today, politicians like Joe Biden, only the second Catholic president, and Nancy Pelosi insist on their Catholic faith while holding mainstream liberal positions. These include issues like abortion and gay marriage, where their perspective contradicts the Church's official teachings. In this, Biden and Pelosi are following a path trod by John Kerry, Mario Cuomo, and even John F. Kennedy. In her new book, Playing God, the journalist Mary Jo McConaughey, herself a liberal Catholic, aims to show the extreme conservatism of a handful of American Catholic bishops and connect them directly or indirectly to the Trump-adjacent far right. I mean, this is actually something that makes sense, right? Like, the idea of the just long-held, traditional, logos-driven Catholic faith being the thing that is needed to pilot society forward. This is not a new concept. It's an incorrect concept, but it's not a new concept that we've been introduced to before. Nicholas Fuentes, if you guys remember him, noted Nazi, is himself a brand of Catholic that has been pushing his beliefs on women, on gay marriage, on progressivism in general, to his audience for years, despite deplatforming. By and large, you won't always find the bigots to be Catholic. You won't, because, like, the NIFB exists, and of course there's the Westboro Baptist Church, and there's the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's the Mormon Church. There's all kinds of other organizations that have histories of bigotry within Christian traditions, but there certainly is a high amount of it that ends up being Catholic, because several of the Catholic tenets are very, very anti, well, our modern ideas in society. One of those ideas being, very, very obviously, ideas about abortion. Catholicism is directly opposed to abortion, and in some sects, even opposed to contraception. So yeah, this all does kind of track with what we know. Also, axolotls with cream. Thank you for redeeming your points for a, you fucking degen. Didn't the church secretly was on Hitler's side? It wasn't secretly. They had the belt buckles that said God with us, and the Catholic Church was one of the organizations that actually backed Hitler. Like, it wasn't a secret thing. The conservative bishops on whom she focuses are, it must be said, very conservative indeed. Bishop Joseph Strickland participated in a Stop the Steal rally on the National Mall in December 12th of 2020. And at the same rally, which was organized by a Christian group called Jericho March, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano told the story of how God brought down the walls of the besieged city after the Israelites surrounded it. Vigano, who is notorious for having called for Francis to resign, is not a U.S. bishop, but an Italian-born priest who was Pope Benedict's nuncio to the United States. Then there is Archbishop Salvatore Cordeline of San Francisco, who during the pandemic declined to wear a mask while saying Mass or distributing Holy Communion, and rejected Pope Francis's stance on COVID vaccines, telling a San Francisco Chronicle podcast in December 2021 that he had a strong immune system and that vaccines approved by the government are not really vaccines. I hate to tell you this, but the definition of vaccine may have broadened as we learn more about how to create more vaccines, but mRNA vaccines are, in fact, vaccines. They provide protection, and in many cases even immunity, to various viruses and various infections. That is the purpose of a vaccine, to protect you from infection in one way or another. an mRNA vaccine simply provides information to your body in a different mechanism than a bog standard vaccine. A bog standard vaccine drops a copy of a virus into you that is dead or weakened so that your body can identify it, learn how to kill it while it is unable to fight back, and then your body will be able to fight the stronger version of it when it comes in, because its primary response, which is data collection, has already been done, and it can immediately go to the second response, which is defense. mRNA vaccines are a little different. They do the same function of providing the body with the material it needs to do its primary response, but what an mRNA vaccine does is it provides the body with information, a little bit of mRNA that the body can use to construct its own virus. It constructs what is called a spike protein of a virus, and that spike protein is the thing that the body analyzes. Now, one of the benefits to mRNA vaccines is because the body is producing a spike protein, we actually get more broad protection from an mRNA vaccine, usually, than we get from a standard vaccine, because when we have a virus or a growth that has been put onto a stem cell and then chopped up and then put into various vials and then inserted into our bodies, we are getting one manifestation of that virus. This is why flu vaccines tend to cover many variations of the flu, but they don't always hit everything. It's a shotgun approach to immunity. The fact that our bodies can create the spike protein for COVID means that even when COVID mutates, even when COVID changes the way that it functions, our body can still look at it and go, yeah, but that's still COVID. Because our body has made that spike protein, it knows at a base level what that is, and it knows to have its secondary response ready in more instances. Now, like with all vaccines, the different types of protection that are given are variable, but to argue that they aren't vaccines is to argue that you don't know what the fuck science is. Science is progress. Science is not a set of facts that we read from a book. Science is an ever-changing body of knowledge and research. I've just gone on a huge rant about this because this is something that I've had to deal with on my channel multiple times. But yeah, there's my rant on that. Vaccines are vaccines, everybody. Hot take. Oh, boy. McConaughey is not wrong to identify strands of contemporary Catholicism that veer to the far right. However, another figure she examines goes as far as Father Charles Coughlin or Father Arthur Termenilio, mid-20th century demagogues who preached racism, anti-Semitism, and even proto-fascism to a wide audience. Father Frank Pavone, head of Priests for Life and a vocal Trump supporter, was defrocked by the Vatican in November for blasphemous social media posts and ignoring the directives of his superiors. He has since also been accused of sexual misconduct. Wow, a Catholic priest being accused of sexual misconduct. Who would have guessed? Some U.S. bishops have made common cause with people who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021. But reading McConaughey's book can be a bit frustrating. For one thing, she does not distinguish between conservative views that are official church teaching, such as doctrine of sin, and a far-right view that are not inherent to Catholicism, like election denial, vaccine denial, and QAnon conspiracy theory. The result can at times sound distressingly similar to old-style Protestant attacks on Catholicism that combined principled objections with rebuking Catholics for the content of their faith. McConaughey writes that some conservative Catholic bishops speak as if we are still living in the 14th century, when religion was hegemonic, and any given cleric was likely to be considered the font of knowledge and truth. So they do, because the Catholic Church still believes it to be, well, the font of knowledge and truth. Today, she continues, we know better than to trust our very selves unquestioningly to our faith leaders, who themselves are only human. Martin Luther and John Calvin, founders of Protestantism, would hardly agree, but it would be hard for Francis to concur fully, because neither he nor the Church has abandoned the doctrine of papal infallibility. For another thing, McConaughey's thesis is supposed to be about ties between the Catholic bishops and the right-wing activists and public figures, yet she has difficulty closely linking actual bishops to prominent conservatives or conservative institutions. A chapter called Unholy Trinity describes Justice Clarence Thomas, his wife, Ginny, and the Federalist Society co-chairman and Trump judge picker Leonard Leo. To McConaughey, all three, joined by the Koch brothers, who are not actually Catholic, are engaged in a grand plan to shift the state towards Christian nationalism. Maybe so, but McConaughey does not manage to connect any Catholic bishops to this project. I mean, yeah, like, yes, every single one of those people listed has some onus in trying to push the country towards a theocracy of some kind, trying to get us closer to Christian nationalism as an accepted ideology, as opposed to a discarded bit of Nazi brown shirt past. But I can understand that criticism. Having not read the book myself, though, I don't know if I concur with it. A chapter on Paul Weyrich and his successful efforts to unite Catholics and evangelical Protestants through the moral majority in the 1980s has almost nothing to say about the Catholic hierarchy. Ditto the chapter on the Domino's Pizza founder Thomas Monaghan, who funded the Ave Maria Law School and the Thomas More Law Center. The chapter on the Napa Institute, a conservative Catholic-oriented think tank and leadership network, points to the Institute's webpage, which says that the organization is inspired by the writings of Archbishop Charles J. Chapin. McConaughey charges that Chapin looks back to a mythical past when all white citizens shared a presumed common instinct. Unfortunately, her proof is a paraphrase of a passage by the Archbishop to the effect that in the past a common Christian culture existed which transcended partisan struggles, giving citizens a shared framework for behavior and belief. Nostalgia for a unifying Christian culture is very different from white nationalism, a point that surely would not be lost on Chapin, who, as it happens, is a member of the prairie band Pavone Nation. Okay, so. I do have a bit of criticism here for the article here. So, during the Reagan years, after the Southern strategy, the GOP started to adapt Christianity specifically as its platform. The idea that Democrats were a bunch of godless communists started to take root around these eras, the post-Red Scare shit. The reason for this is because a lot of the people that they needed to get for the votes for the GOP all tended to exist in these southern, more racist states. A lot of these southern, more racist states that were needing to be appealed to for the southern strategy happened to be very, very largely fundamentalist Christian. Not just Christian, but fundamentalist Christian. The difference being fundamentalist Christians tend to lean harder into dogma, so it's easier to buy their votes by appealing to that dogma. So, if you take the words of a Catholic bishop and you're trying to feed words about a once wonderful unifying past that transcended partisan borders, that can be used to speak to Christian nationalism. That easily can be used to speak to it, because the party that largely caters to white nationalists are the party that claims more often than not that they are the party of Christianity. That's not to say that most Democrats aren't Christian. They are. But there is one party that makes it their platform first and foremost, and that's the GOP. So, while pointing out that, yeah, her proof is a paraphrase of a passage that says that in the past, Christian culture existed and transcended partisan struggles, you have to remember who's co-opted Christian culture more often now. And I hate to tell you, it's the party with the white nationalists. Like, that is a... Maybe it's just that the evidence is not there in the book the way it's supposed to be. Maybe that's the case. I am uncertain. Again, have not read the book. This is the side effect sometimes of user-submitted content. Sometimes I do not have all of the information I need to do as in-depth a review of a piece of media that I would like to. I certainly don't have enough time to read an entire book right before a stream. But... said, what would a leftist Christian nationalist look like? A tanky. They'd be a tanky. You'd find a tanky that would marry the ideas of communism with the ideas of Jesus's teachings, and then they would be very, very beholden to the state. Like that you would just have a tanky. Like other American Catholic liberals, McConaughey clearly admires Francis, who stands for the possibility that the church might gradually become, if not liberal, at least less conservative. For the matter, I admire him myself. I find it harder to sympathize with McConaughey's repeated insinuations that conservative Catholics, including bishops but also lay people, are somehow being disobedient when they take positions to the right of Francis. When the conservative Benedict was pope and appointed many of the conservative American bishops still serving, it was perfectly acceptable for liberal Catholics in the United States or anywhere in the world to adopt and express views that were to his left. The Catholic Church, for all its conservatism, does not demand from the faithful total fealty on all matters. It distinguishes core teachings necessary to the faith from matters on which disagreement is permissible. Both Catholic conservatives and Catholic liberals should enjoy this leeway, such as it is. Okay, so I feel like I agree with the words as written, but maybe not the feeling there. The difference a lot of times between left-wing beliefs and right-wing beliefs are a matter of harm. So if the actual criticism in the original book is disobedience, then yeah, that's not going to help you very much. But if the actual criticism is that there is harm being made and it can be measured, then I could agree with that one. But that doesn't seem to be what was written in the original book. But I, again, have not read it. If you have read it and you are in my comment section, please let me know. When it comes to intra-Catholic disputes, like whether politicians who support abortion rights should be denied sacrament or communion, it's a bit trickier for non-Catholics to express a point of view. At the same time, it doesn't seem uncharitable to remind liberal Catholics like McConaughey that the Catholic Church is, by self-definition, a structure of hierarchical authority run by a single man who holds the keys of heaven given by Jesus to St. Peter. If that's not a conservative institution, I don't know what is. Okay, so it is an opinion piece. It is a review on a book, so we're several layers deep on the levels of criticism that we have here. So I guess my point, do I think that the Catholic Church is a conservative institution? Yeah, 100%. I think most churches, by and large, as large bodies are, they are, after all, bodies that are beholden to uphold a certain level of religious tradition. That doesn't necessarily mean they're always conservative, but when it comes to the Catholic Church, I think a city painted in gold probably leans that way just a little bit. But this is where I got to throw it back to you. I don't have much more to say on this one. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you've read this book, then let me know what your thoughts might be. And maybe this will inspire you to go read the book and then come back to the video and let me know what your thoughts are. But with all that said, guys, that's about all I got. As always, insert end of video tagline here.